There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. I am joined today by Somrat Niyogi. He is the VP of Business Development at Clari. Somrat, how you doing today, man?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have you on the show today. We're going to be unpacking the data problem that exists in sales today and what organizations can be doing about it. Before we jump into today's topic, I'd love for you to share with listeners a little bit about your background and what you and the team at Clari are up to these days.
Yeah, so I run business development here at Clari. So basically anything that's not in the realm of direct selling kind of falls in my lap. So partnerships to driving partner-oriented revenue strategies. And so my background, this is my fourth sales software company. So I've been in the category for quite some time. Started at Salesforce, worked for an early app exchange partner when it started a little over 10 years ago. Founded a company called Stitch that sold to Sugar CRM, and now here at Clari, where we're in the mission to help sales predict what's going to close and what's not going to close, and help harness the data from all revenue operations to gauge opportunities and take action and close deals.
I love it. Yeah, I noticed that in looking at your background, having been part of some successful exits as a co-founder yourself, and now heading up business development. Just curious, as a side note, how your experiences in the space as a co-founder have maybe impacted your role in sales and business development at all. Well,
it's this technology landscape of sales and marketing has really evolved. Just as I look at my sort of tenure at Clari, but just even going back, 15 years, the professional trade of sales and the discipline that's going to sales has gotten more disciplined. There's more expectations. There's more, data that's ever existed before. And I think that's making the aspect of technology and what it can do even more paramount these days than it is, 10, 15 years ago. And, obviously, the CRM vendors kind of led the starting point, but the proliferation of technology, of which, I've founded one, it's challenging to be a vendor in this space, I'll tell you that much. But there's also a lot of opportunity for technology to make a meaningful difference in this world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. As one who loves the sales profession as well as geeks out on technology, I count it a very good thing to be able to interview folks from the space daily on this podcast. So love to get your perspective on this as well. So let's jump right into today's topic. We're talking about the data problem that exists in sales. So tell us a little bit about the core of the problem and what's kind of led to it in your opinion, Somrat.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are going to the data problem today. We've all been, following CRM as a category, and, sales at its core has a fundamental problem to sort of help companies achieve results, and is that it's all about data. The fact is, and this is just a truth that is sort of permanent in this space, is that nobody really updates CRM, and as a result of that, revenue operations, including sales, suffers as a result. Sales kind of, relies on information to really make better decisions. And because, the products were not really designed to help sort of salespeople, input data in a more streamlined way, there's the lack of it is creating a challenge. And so what happens is that sales kind of works in a vacuum. There's all these disconnected stacks that sort of feed off this data that's relatively incomplete and it's not synchronized. And this creates massive challenges, not only for sales, because they don't have visibility in terms of what's going on. And sales leaders are constantly trying to get insights to, how pipeline is created, where the forecast is going to land. But this sort of permeates beyond just sales. Sales being probably one of the most important revenue generating functions. They have a hard time calling the number, consistently hitting each quarter. And because the reality is that reps just simply don't have time to update. It's not their job and responsibility to update CRM. It's to close deals. And so, managers are constantly chasing facts. Executives are really kind of left unknown, trying to get insights to where the forecast is going to land. And this, by the way, is not just going to be a sales problem. It's going to be a problem for the entire, revenue operations team. Sales is just one area in this business. Marketing is going to be, wants these insights. Customer success, as the value journey goes beyond from sales to after close one to, customer success. And so at its core, data is going to be one of the core areas that you're going to see investments in the coming years of how do you get a complete view of what's actually happening in the business? How do you drive alignment between all these revenue generating functions such that you can forecast more effectively, you can make better decisions about where things are stuck in the funnel and how to really not only build better, top of the funnel, but ultimately drive those deals to close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you hit on a lot of things that are really applicable there. As you were talking, one of the things that I found that really resonated with me was as you were talking about, sales reps don't have time. Updating CRM and making sure the data is accurate has value in the long term, but it doesn't have immediate value in the short term in getting their deals across the line. And that's ultimately what they are responsible for, their monthly number, their quarterly number. And also it's not always time efficient. CRM seems like it has evolved into more of a management empowering aspect than it is an individual contributor empowering aspect. Would you say that that's kind of at the crux of why we've seen so many technologies sprout up around CRM is to try to address that? Where's the common ground between sellers and managers in leveraging the data, but actually working efficiently to get sales done?
Yeah, I think the promise of CRM was to be this platform that's going to really help everyone in the organization really drive more revenue and help grow the business. But as you shared, it really hasn't sort of lived up to the promise. What it has become is sort of an accounting system. It's a place you kind of store, you try, even at the time, from 15 years ago, people would say to track your opportunities. Just the nature of logging something doesn't express a benefit. And so I think what we're seeing is the shift in the market in terms of all this technology that is being, CRM is not going to go anywhere. It's becoming this sort of accounting sort of sales database. But now there are these next generation platforms that are tapping into this database and saying, how do I actually deliver a benefit to everyone in the sales organization? How do we help reps, know where where they should focus their time? How do we help managers unlock this value that's sitting in this database and connect to other systems that are also just as important to help managers make better decisions? And how do we help executives? And by the way, this is not just a Clari thing that we're specifically doing. You're seeing a lot of great technology that is using CRM as primarily as a database. And so I think it's a very exciting time to be in sales and marketing tech, because we're seeing this kind of shift. And we're seeing, in the same way Oracle, Salesforce kind of built their business on top of an Oracle database. What's happening is Salesforce is kind of getting pushed down further in the stack, and you're seeing these very purpose-built applications that are really solving sort of these very specific needs of the business. And so, we're still on this long journey. I think at the core of it is in order for everybody to really build meaningful applications, that's integrated with CRM, you have to have good data, and so it's going to continue to be at the cornerstone of what needs to be built in this space is how do you get accurate data into the systems? How do you unlock all this value, this data? And that's one of the core things that we're spending time on at Clari is how do we do that as effectively as possible.
It's story time again, and we're talking about search engine marketing. Today, I'm going to tell you about a challenge within Pelican Case's B2B division. Pelican needed a partner with deep B2B expertise that could get them a massive bump in leads from their pay-per-click campaigns without increasing spend. After vetting a handful of agencies, they decided to go with Predictive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency located in Southern California. Predictive took on this challenge by refining their targeting and building custom landing pages for their advertising efforts. Once implemented, they saw a 208% increase in conversion rate. Needless to say, Pelican Cases met their initiative. And I have a hunch that Predictive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah. So I think you touched on two important things there. It's one, how do we get good information into the database, or how do we update that data so that it is good information in the database? And then how do we unlock that to get more use out of it through, predictive analytics and other things that platforms like Clari can help with? So what are you seeing as sales organizations are doing day to day that you guys are working with, Somrat, in updating the data or getting more data in? Any best practices that you've uncovered either with your team internally or with clients or prospects that you're working with to kind of handle that first point of let's get better data to work with, and now we can apply some cool technology with it. But it to the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, we've got to clean up and get good data in at the first point.
Yeah, I mean, I think the core thing that I would sort of advise, any of the listeners here is start figuring out how to automate things that are very manual in nature. One thing that we have been an early pioneer in is the ability to connect to automatically capture all this contact and business activity data and prospect engagement data through a range of robust integrations with your email and your calendar and your marketing automation system. And we push that data back into your CRM system. And, what the benefit there is that reps don't have to do something that they're constantly asked. If you remember sort of 15 years ago, it's log your activities. You can press this button and you can answer your task. No one wants to do that. And so how do you get more automation into your business? And so that's just one example. There's a lot of interesting companies that are automating other things outside of that. There's all these content engagement platforms where if you send content out, how do you automate the visibility in terms of who's engaging with that content? How do you get other phone data that, if you're doing a call with a customer, how do you get that voice transcription into Salesforce? So there's a lot of interesting technology. And so the first thing is take things that are very manual in nature and just automate it for the rep. There's not going to be everything that's going to be automated. Obviously, if you're having a meeting with a customer and there's something, giving you something over the phone and in person, like obviously you have to log something. But I actually believe that in the future, you're going to see some of that even automated. I think there's going to be a world where you're going to take your phone out and using Siri or something like that, you're going to just transcribe everything. And so even those face-to-face meetings are going to transform. So the key thing is take manual tasks that are not part of the day-to-day job of a rep. Your job of a rep is to get in front of customers and position value and automate it for the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move to the second part of that equation and where you see the role of predictive analytics playing once sales organizations are able to clean up and leverage the data that they have and to a greater degree kind of be able to count on that data. What are some of the things you guys are seeing and some of the things broader in the marketplace that you see as being applicable, kind of the next phase of being able to apply more analytics to the data that does exist in the sales orgs databases?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting applications of AI. There's different terms that are being used these days, and it's a dime a dozen. But what we have found is that we really have to go deep to solve very specific things, specific problems. And so what we've done as an organization is we've built a set of very practical applications for sales that they can use every day, as they sell, so they can close and forecast their business. And so an example of this is, we've been analyzing opportunity win-loss data that comes, and we create a score. We create a score from 1 to 99 representing the likelihood an opportunity is going to close. So sales reps and managers can identify which deals are going to close and which deals the rep should focus on. And that's just one example. We've actually manifested other applications of using this vast amount of data where we can actually project where the forecast is going to land, where we look at, historical trends and saying, based off of what's happening in your business, we believe the forecast is going to land. And, for some of our customers, we've been able to accurately call the forecast within 4 weeks of the quarter. And so, when we think about what's going on in this market of let's say you can automate all this data and you bring it into a single system, how do you really solve the core business challenges? And so we've happened to focus on, areas of helping teams kind of focus on the right opportunities, identify risk and upside and forecasting. But there's so many other opportunities that we're seeing in the market that we're going to start investing in. And there's other interesting companies out there that are investing in other applications of AI that help the sort of challenge of driving more revenue and improving, forecast accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Those sort of scoring models to help you predict the likelihood of deals closing. We had Tom Williams on the show recently. He's talking about his K to C metric, which he calls kick to the curb, getting bad deals out of the funnel, which has a lot of positive impact on sales organizations. Do you find that application of some sort of scorecard, it varies quite widely from organization to organization, or are there some key metrics that most sales orgs could start with to start to build that model of predicting the likelihood that deals are going to close?
Yeah, I mean, every business is different. Like to say, one company is the same as another is will never really be true, because there's a lot of factors that go into driving predictions. It's the circumstances of that business, it's the historical patterns of that specific business, the individuals in that business, and how that sort of factors outcomes. And so I think the short answer is that every business is unique. What I can share is that there are some common patterns that are generally used, though, right? So an example of this is, we've all heard the statement, time kills all deals, right? And we all know that. And so that's probably true for everybody, right? And so now, how does one business time affect, deals versus another business? They're obviously going to vary depending on the type of products that they sell, the unique circumstances of that business. But that's just one example that when we tell you this deal has a less likely to close, one of the things that's consistent across the board is that there's a factor of time, right? This deal is taking longer than it should be, or this deal taking 2x longer, and therefore there's some risk. And so there are some sort of common themes that exist, but when you dig in, each business has its unique elements. Sometimes it's about a competition. Sometimes it's about a specific attribute of what's happening, but that's unique to that organization. So there are some common threads, but I would say that there's no sort of magic formula. I think that's the challenge with AI, is that there's this, it takes time to really improve the quality of how AI can be used. And we've spent the last 5-6 years perfecting the way that we score opportunities, the way we accurately determine the forecast. I mean, we have to remember that we have everywhere from small to large organizations that are using our platform. We have companies like Nutanix and Okta and Epicor and Adobe that are really counting on our platform to help guide the everyday sales decisions. And so we cannot take this job, we have to take our job very seriously. And so therefore it's taken time to get these things right. And we're going to continuously be focusing on making those AI projections and the things that we're doing on the AI side, even better.
Right. And the more data that you compile and the more industry aggregate data that can feed into any system that's applying AI to large sets of data, the more data that's there, the better that result you can see and more accuracy, right?
Well, that's absolutely correct. I mean, this is a longer term journey. Where we started with connecting to CRM and email and calendar. We started a partnership with Marketo, about a little less than a year ago, where we're bringing marketing automation system, signal data to our platform. But you're right, there's so much data out there. And customers are kind of coming to us and saying, well, what about this unique proprietary data that exists on the back end of our system, or what about, these other technologies that we're using that, can we use that data into our platform? Because they know that it's all there. It's just not automatically collected, which is the first order that, companies are trying to think, how do I bring all this data unified into a single system? And then second, how do I use that information to unlock some insights? Not in this sort of, hey, let me run a report, but like if I'm making an everyday decision, should I focus on this opportunity? Should I close? Should I close this upside deal? Where is this forecast going to land? How do we take all this large volume of data and derive it to very simplistic insights? And that's the challenge and the opportunity for us as a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an opportunity and a challenge for all of us looking forward. Somrat, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. If anybody listening to this would like to learn more about Clari or stay connected with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Yeah, so we definitely check out Clari.com to learn more about our technology and our platform. If you're struggling with forecasting or trying to improve pipeline management or opportunity management, or just looking at better ways to use your data to make everyday sales decisions, please reach out to Clari, and we're happy to have a dialogue with you. You can obviously reach out to me on LinkedIn. My name is a little funky, but if you type Somrat, there's not a lot of Somrats out there. I'm sure you're going to find me, Somrat space Clari, and you'll find me.
Yeah, awesome. We connected easy enough, and we'll link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well. Awesome. Well, Somrat, this has been great. Thank you so much for being on the show today, man.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. All those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.